Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, which is where I am. So I'm in LA. So come down next time.
I'm gonna have to come by when it's open.
Yes, when everything is like
maybe we can do some kind of collab with Rose Studios or like with some kind of photography. I'd love to be more involved. Like I've never been involved with like a Filipino group before.
Yeah, well, I mean, SIPA is a great one to get started with. It's the oldest and largest in the country. So we've been around for almost 50 years, and I like even went to the center when I was a kid, and I revisited it in college because we worked on that, you know, that famous historic Filipino town mural.
Yeah.
So I actually got to work on that when I was in college, and so there's so much programming because SIPA services the Filipino community from babies, youth, all the way to seniors. So there's something for everyone. And then they've had a really huge focus in the last year on arts and culture. So we've been trying to promote Filipino creatives more and like Filipino filmmakers and artists.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So,
I mean, I really wish I knew of something like this when I came from the Philippines. Like I grew up with no Filipinos when I came to America. It was.
And where are you?
I'm in downtown now, but I grew up in Inglewood.
Okay, yes.
Where in the Philippines were you born?
I was born in Florida. Then I moved to the Philippines when I was 2, and then I grew up there until I was 11. And my mom's from Pampanga, and I grew up in Pasig.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. How about you?
I was born in Cebu.
Cebu?
So I only know Cebu. So if somebody says any other city, I have no idea.
And then when did you come to America?
Huh?
When did you come to America?
I came to America when I was 4. But I go back home every year. I'm still I try to be connected.
Oh, that's good. Do you speak Filipino?
No.
I mean Tagalog.
I speak Spanish fluently.
Oh wow. Okay.
But I think it's because Tagalog, growing up hearing it, was so similar to the Spanish language that I ended up picking up another language fluently.
Oh,
so it's so so it is what it is.
No worries. I think it's quarantine. One of my biggest goals is hopefully I can learn Spanish.
It's so possible.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just gonna buy Rosetta Stone. And I'm like, ¿Cómo estás?
Yeah. No, it's possible. It's possible.
Yeah.
Okay, ladies. So it looks like it's on YouTube, but I'm not certain. It doesn't matter because I'm going to also just post the link after I'm recording it on Zoom, and I'll just post that link. Unfortunately, live people will have to come into Zoom. So for those of you who have told your friends to tune into YouTube, make sure that they're on the Zoom link instead. So I just want to make sure we're respectful of your time and getting through the meat of our questions and conversation today. But I love how just naturally, of course, we're already connecting. We're already talking about where we're from, what our heritage is. So if you wouldn't mind, if we could actually just, keep going with that. But if I could ask each of you to give your intro, share, where you are currently, like physically, what your business is, and just anything you want to share about yourself. Okay, so now everyone's quiet? No.
Well, I'm going to start.
Okay, perfect.
I'm Val Fishbain. I am from Marikina, Philippines.
Hey.
I moved here when I was 14, here to LA. And now I'm co-founder and president of Spread the Love Foods, which my business partner is actually my husband. We make nut butters and jams, and our products are available nationwide. We are like Amazon's bestseller and Amazon's choice as far as peanut butter and almond butters.
Oh my God.
What else? What else?
I remember you telling me that story. I was like, that's amazing.
Thank you.
I'll go. Hi guys, my name's Emilynn Rose. I started off as a photographer. I do fashion, commercial, and celebrities. And then I opened a photo studio / event space called Rose Studios LA here in downtown. We currently have 3 studios and opening more, hopefully. And yeah, I mean, we're just growing. I love business and I love connecting with people. So I'm really excited about this, and hope you guys can all come to the studio. And you guys can come.
I've been. It's beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I know. It was great seeing you. You came to one of the events, right? Yeah.
No, I actually I was a model for Tea Drops.
Oh. Oh my God. Oh, because they came. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what's cool? We've been getting a lot of like Filipino events and like all the cool events that's been, they have the most creative setups, which I love. Like,
That's cool. We gotta go again for another event.
yeah, we should definitely do something with Entrepinayship. I think that would be great.
Anna Marie.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. Sorry.
So my name is Leah. I am the co-founder of Alyssa Marie Wellness. I'm a licensed psychotherapist. I'm in private practice. One of my first therapy jobs, though, was actually at SEPA. I was an in-home counselor back in 2010. So from 2010 to 2011. I have a private practice. It's growing into a group practice. And I also own office spaces that I rent out to other therapists that are looking to grow their business. My office is in Sherman Oaks. All my spaces are in Sherman Oaks.
Oh, that's awesome. I think like we pretty much kind of have the same strategy. Like we open up spaces and then we rent it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool.
I rent out to other therapists. Yeah.
But to a market, yeah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jessica Del Mundo, and I am in media and public relations. I live in Los Angeles. And as I had shared with everyone, I'm also on the board of directors for SEPA, and I serve as their executive secretary. So it's been really helpful having a PR person in that role, because I can actually help the organization in terms of, announcements and making sure that the public can hear some of the great stuff that we've recently been doing. Invite all of you when we are past this pandemic to come down to historic Filipino town and get to know SEPA. There's also 5 other nonprofits that are Filipino focused in that area, and there's a number of creative studios and businesses and amazing restaurants. So it's really a wonderful community. But by background, my work has primarily been in public relations. I opened up my own studio 5 years ago. It's called 10 Story House. And prior to that, I had a traditional agency career. I was senior vice president and executive director of media for Golan Harris, which is under Interpublic Group in LA and Chicago. And prior to that, I was at another small agency called Casey Sayre & Williams. And my career actually did not start in PR. I went to journalism school. I studied poli-sci, and I was pre-med, had no intention of being a publicist or a PR person, because it was not a real career to me. And I actually went into media. And so I was a television producer at Fox News for the beginning of my career for about 3 years. So just relationships I had and friends that worked in PR is what brought me over to the dark side. But it's been good, because I like to think that I'm one of the bright lights on the dark side, because we aren't about spin. We're really about clarifying communications and helping people tell their story. And so it's been a great, I hate to say how old I am, but it's been really a great 15, 20-year career. And I'd be happy to help anyone who's participating in the Entrepinay workshops with any PR questions or media questions that you guys might have.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm Anna Marie Cruz. I'm the founder of Entrepinayship, and this really just lights me up. Entrepinayship is really about elevating each other, elevating the Filipina community, entrepreneurs, leaders, change makers around the world, with a vision that if we can all realize and step into our fullest potential, then we can really do so much more as a community together. We have so many different differentiators as a community. We're in every corner of the world. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a nurse somewhere on Antarctica. So as far as I'm in Long Beach, I'm really excited about this conversation today. And as I mentioned earlier, this Entrepinay Day is really about channeling and looking at our heritage and the strengths that we have. And especially around this time, I think, unfortunately, we had to pivot. Right? We were looking at doing this as an in-person event. We still will. This was also an inspiration to creating this new opportunity, which is online, to invite everyone, whether they're here in LA or somewhere else. And it's been a really really soul-filling 4 days. So today I thought,
such a great idea. I mean, like, it was better than just like canceling it completely. Like, I thought this was amazing.
right? So,
But don't go anywhere, you guys, because we need you to come.
Yeah, I definitely want to even. Yeah, I'd love that.
So of course, the goal is obviously to bring this back once we're able to, leave our four corners, to bring this back to an in-person event. And I also want to give Jessica an opportunity to talk about Pinay Empowerment Brunch, which has been going on. I was very grateful to have been part of the last panel, but Jess, maybe you can tell us what it is and how often, once we're out there, how often it'll continue to occur.
Yes, happy to. So Pinay Empowerment Brunch started in 2018, I think. So we wanted to do kind of something similar to what we had seen in the LA community. There were all these Black women empowerment events, and we had seen them like do, dinners and brunches, and we thought, there should be a Pinay empowerment brunch, held quarterly or sometime, regularly in LA. And so we started with the first one in 2018. It's set up with 4 panelists who are all Pinays. They don't necessarily have to be entrepreneurs. They come from different fields and different backgrounds. And then there's a moderator. And basically what happens is we have them discuss over brunch their careers and their identities and their challenges and their experiences. Those are the themes that are pretty consistent in all of our brunches. But you would be amazed at the diversity and variety of careers represented in our community by Filipina American women. We've had a Disney Imagineer. We've had the head of Netflix Business and Legal Affairs. We've had restaurateurs. We've had chefs. We've had artists, celebrities, lawyers, you name it. I mean, and these women range from, we had one gal who was just starting in her legal career, and then she ended up at BET Entertainment. We had another gal who, has had a very lengthy career and, was talking about how she's doing a lot of community service now. So it's an amazing range of women. They typically have 50 people in attendance. They're held at Barcata Restaurant in Hollywood, which graciously has donated the space to us, and they give us a subsidied cost of the brunch. And the brunch is delicious. It's a Filipino inspired brunch. There's like ube French toast, and there's like a little tapsilog, and there's like, it's all the like goodies that you would have at a Filipino breakfast. And drinks are included, non-alcoholic drinks are included. But it's a really fun event, and we have it intimate like that so that you can really get to know the panelists and you can hear their stories, and then afterwards do like Q&A with them and meet them in person and make connections. So a lot of women attend these events, but we've had men in the audience and family members and kids and, local community leaders come out. So it's quarterly, and we've had now under our belt about 6 or 7 of them. So this would be our next one with all of you guys. And I'm just filling in because I know Christine Concordia, who's with the Parks Finest, I don't think she was able to do it today. They're so swamped over there getting meals to all the medical professionals and trying to keep their business thriving around the clock. But she's going to be
and Vanessa,
dynamic. Yeah. I mean, so like a dynamic addition, and you guys are in good company. What's also going to happen with this event is it's been so successful and people have been so impressed by the caliber of women who participate. We're actually going to build a portal on the SEPA website, which will be for all the alums of the program so that you can connect to each other, and we'll have like a little, thumbnail photo up in your bio so the community can also see who you are. So thank you so much for participating. We really appreciate it. And we hope those of you that are watching online and have a chance to come to LA will attend that next event or put it on your list of things to do when you come to LA one day, because they will be held in the future quarterly and regularly.
And for anyone who wants to come to LA and look at historic Filipino town, I know SEPA and PWC, one of the other organizations, also host a great tour of historic Filipino town with, the different, not just places where we currently are, but also this beautiful mural that commemorates all the different Filam and Filipino heroes in our history. So thank you so much for that, Jessica. I do want to take a step back and just do a quick check-in. We did this the other day with our international panel, and it was really interesting to hear where everyone is with all that's happening. So just taking a step back, I wanted to check in with all of you and ask is, what has been on your mind? What's the most urgent thing that's been on your mind? Or really the most recent thing that that has kept your mind space? Where are you in your headspace?
Is this the time that we cry?
I always say this, my goal is to be sponsored by Kleenex, because every Entrepinayship gathering, online or in person, just, feel free. Yeah.
Well, I'm not gonna cry, but there's definitely that underlying like worry. Just like people around me, like my kids, I'm always thinking what's gonna happen. But we try to keep it positive, every day we kind of have to still work with them, like school stuff. So as much as we can, we try to not talk about coronavirus too much, but they know it very well.
How many kids do you have, and how old are they?
4 and 5.
Oh, wow.
So it's a little bit of a handful right now. I feel like after this, I'm gonna be a pivot expert, because right now, like, instead of being a like running a business, I'm more like running their class plan and our schedule every day, like what art we have to do or math and that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's what I'm feeling right now.
And business-wise, because you sell it mostly on Amazon, you're doing okay, right?
So actually, the bigger part of our business is the food service, where we service the restaurants, the cafes, ice cream shops, and a lot of them are closed right now. So there's a lot more business in retail right now and online. So it's kind of balancing out a little bit. So we're just kind of like, again, like pivoting, like, okay, let's focus on promoting this stuff on Amazon, or let's promote like the big buckets of peanut butter that we usually sell to restaurants to directly to customers. So that's what we're doing.
Val, I have some resources on talking to toddlers about the coronavirus and what's happening, if you want me to send them to you.
Yes, please do.
Okay, I'll send them to you.
Thank you.
Do you have anything about
maybe we can make that available to others?
Oh yeah.
And also talking to like teens and like elementary school kids?
Yes. I'll see what I can gather.
I can't even imagine going through all this with kids. Like, it's already so hard with just, by like myself, just thinking of like my family, but thinking of like another person. So I give you props for that,
Oh, thank you. No, I check in on them every day. I make sure that they're, they're okay. They're really happy, because like 100% of my attention or 90% of my attention goes to them, and they're like, yeah, we're having fun. So they're good. Don't worry about them right now.
Yeah. For me, it's a little hard just right now.
There's a little bit of background noise. So maybe if you're not speaking, if you can put yourself on mute.
Yeah. So like right now, I feel like it's a little hard for my business, just because like photography wise, like I made completely all my campaigns rescheduled, which is fine, because like I'm okay, but the studio, like we have employees, we pretty much closed down the studio unless like somebody really wants to shoot, but only in like a really small crew. Like we're only really accepting like 6 people crews, and even that's kind of like still a little stressful for me, because I just don't want to put my staff into that situation. But then at the same time, like what's the scariest part is like right now I can pay them, but what if this goes longer than 2 months? Like we have rent, they have like their livelihood is, on my shoulders. And I think that's like the hardest part, to think that like, if I can't pay them, that's gonna be really hard. So I'm glad like we did have some savings, and that I prepared for something, at least for like a couple months. But like for me, that's like the biggest scare that I have, is that like, what happens if this goes longer? And I'm trying not to think about it like that. We're still trying to market. I'm trying to make sure that like I still pay them. So even if like their workload goes into marketing or being online, and kind of thinking of different ways to like, you know, be informative with like the industry, and, you know, trying to get people like, you know, just kind of still going, or trying to find ways to like still get bookings, but like, even if it's not now, maybe later. So, you know, for me, that's the hardest part with this whole thing, you know, just having employees. Like I never thought that, you know, this something like this would happen. Like I've always been like, oh, maybe if like a month of, you know, not doing well in the business, like we have like funding to like, you know, pick ourselves back up. But I didn't know like we would just completely go out of business for like 2 months. And, you know, me and my business partner, we've worked so hard for this for 2 years. Like we've been doing so well for 2 years. And something like this was just so unexpected that I just, you know, in the back of my head, like, we can't fail. Like I can't let this COVID-19 break us, you know? So, you know, we've just been pushing. Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Let us know if there's anything we can do to support you guys.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, we have some meetings this week, so hopefully we can try to push something out, and then I'll keep you guys informed.
So my business has pretty much remained unchanged. I'm a therapist. So, you know, my main conflict was, do I continue to see people face to face? Because that's the heart of what I do. It's that relationship. Or do I move it to something virtual, which is just a very different experience than an in-person therapy session. So it was kind of like an ethical conflict inside, but I've decided to move all of my clients to virtual teletherapy, which has been okay. So I haven't really been affected on the business side of things, and we're also considered essential. So if we did want to go into the office, we can. So, you know, my training is in social work. I have my bachelor's degree in social work, my master's in social work. And so just kind of my heart right now are at the people who are in marginalized communities, who don't have access to critical care, who don't have medical insurance to be able to get tested if they wanted to, who live in close quarters and can't practice social distancing, families and elderly who don't have access to be able to hoard supplies like everybody else. So my heart always goes out to those organizations. So I've been closely following a lot of the organizations on Instagram in Los Angeles that are doing like the deep and meaningful work and helping others. And I've been promoting their pages on my page, because I just think it's so important that for those of us who can, to be able to uplift everybody else, because this is the time where we have to be interconnected. So for me, that's just been the hardest part, because there are going to be people whose lives will be affected by this forever. And so it's, what can I do to help them? What can I do with the platform that I have to be able to shine light on other things that are happening in the world and in our small communities too? And just trying to like kind of balance that stuff. That's been the hardest part for me.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, even through this whole thing, like, I feel like I'm still somewhat blessed to where, you know, we do have to kind of help each other and just keep, you know, pushing like positivity around, you know, because that's all we need right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would jump in and say for me, just like Val, my family is top of mind. And, you know, there's a lot of people here in the house. There's 6 people. So we, you know, I also have my father living with me, and, you know, he's in that group that's very susceptible to, you know, having complications from like serious complications from this. So we're really hypersensitive about anybody coming to our house. Like we canceled our housekeeper. We canceled like, you know, people that we know, even like relatives that are nearby. We don't want anybody to come over. So we just recently, I mean, we've been doing delivery, but we're super scared about that too, because I have friends in the health field who sent me this like coronavirus slide, and it was about how the virus can live on surfaces and packages for like 9 hours, right? And I'm like, what? You know, the World Health Organization said, you know, it's not going to be transferable via mail and packages, but this is like a hospital staff telling its doctors and nurses, hey, this is the amount of time it can stay on surfaces, right? And packages and cardboard and things like that. So I'm trying not to like Anna Marie said, we can't like freak out and panic. I'm very much limiting the news sources that we read. And, you know, my mother sends me a lot of things, and other aunties and relatives and friends, you know, send me a lot of articles, and a lot of them are, you know, it's not really credible. So I really consider which news we're consuming right now. It's very limited. And there's some good things out there that make me feel positive about what's going on. And that's what you should really kind of surround yourself with. I can't watch like our president talk about this. I can't watch like, you know, certain news stations, but I can listen to, in fact, I'll forward to everyone. There was this fantastic article in Apple where they spoke with an epidemiologist and an expert on the polio virus. And, you know, it's like his information and those kind of articles are so uplifting. And give me hope and think like, you know what, there are other countries ahead of us who dealt with this a little late, and they're fine now. Like they're already solving things. And so we've got a lot of good examples to follow. So I'm just hoping and praying every day that our leadership gets it right. And of course, I'm thinking about all like the medical professionals. I have like you guys, I'm sure, because we're Asian and Filipino, we have tons of friends who are doctors and nurses with kids too. And so I think of them because they're the ones that are really, the risk takers right now. They have no choice. They have to expose themselves.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's, I think trying to keep a strong faith right now, and also limiting where you're hearing stuff from. And quite honestly, like, I also think like in terms of business, you know, it's going to work itself out. I think that if things get so terribly, bad to a certain point, every industry will have some kind of support, I think, locally or federally. So I'm thinking about that. I really can't focus on doomsday scenarios. I just got to keep surrounding myself by positive people and credible news sources, positive information, and then just try to do the work and adjust to everything virtual. I mean, that my kids, you know, music lessons and dance lessons are all online now, and there's nothing on my calendar anymore except virtual sessions, right? So I mean, that's going to be the new normal, and that's okay. So as long as none of us have it and we're able to get things done, then just I wish to stay focused on that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing all of these different perspectives, different concerns, different things top of mind. I mean, some of you are working with other businesses and you're thinking about their well-being. You're talking about marginalized communities. You're talking about our, own immediate families, people who are susceptible. My own dad is 80, and every time I bring him food, I just like literally walk in the door, drop off the bag, and leave. So there's a lot of things on our minds. The previous workshop we had prior to this was all around pivoting and being resilient. And I want to do the same thing here and just focus on how we've already been resilient in our businesses and our lives. So I do have some prepared questions for everyone, and I want to give some time to each of you to talk about that and to celebrate the different milestones that you've had thus far, because I think what that shows us and what we can learn from all of that is we've been able to pivot in so many different ways. We've been resilient, we've been innovative. So a time like this is just another example of that. And then I also just want to say that on Thursday, we had this panel with a serial entrepreneur who's been through 2 economic crises. And the one thing that she says, and I thought that was really positive, is as an entrepreneur, you typically go through these things alone, right? It's a solo journey in many ways. Today, we're all going through it. There's no reason not to tap into the community that we have, because we're all feeling this and everyone can empathize. So with that, I wanted to go through these questions. Val, I'd like to start with you because you're on my list as the first person.
I saw it.
So your story is so beautiful. I mean, you all have really great stories. Your story started with your product being a party favor for your wedding. And if you go to the website, there's actually photos of her wedding, shoes optional, which I love. And then you moved into the farmer's market. And then now, like you mentioned, you're also working with other food companies, other Berries Boot Camp being one of them, the most recent one. Sorry, there's
Freshly, Portos, Salt and Straw, to name a few, Sweet Laurel. So a lot of bakeries and smoothie shops throughout the country.
So in retrospect, what have been some key milestones that have taken you from the wedding as a favor to the farmer's market to now where you are?
So it's been a long road. I'm not going to tell you guys all of it because it's been almost like 7 years now. But the steps that we had to take, I mean, there was just like a lot of humility and a lot of, you know, like asking questions. You know, both my husband and I don't really have Zach has a background in entrepreneurship, but he hasn't really been successful with it. I don't have a background in entrepreneurship. My background is in psychology and social work. So really like just, you know, coming from that background, like really asking a lot of questions, having some unofficial mentors, and just like kept on like plugging in and like just, you know, thought of what's so special about our business and just really focusing on that. Like from our wedding, for example, like we saw the reaction in people's faces when they tasted the peanut butter with their fingers, like literally dipping into the jars. And like, you know, when we saw that reaction, we're like, all right, let's take a moment to like remember this. And that's something that we wanted to like kind of keep on repeating, you know, throughout the years, and for like people to still, you know, still kind of like be surprised of like, oh my gosh, this is what natural peanut butter tastes like without the additives, without the, you know, the palm oil. So just really like focusing on, you know, what's so special about our product. And just like, you know, a lot of that working hard on that. And then as far as like the milestones, I feel like I've heard this from a lot of businesses. After 5 years, you kind of tend to like know whether your business is, you know, going to fail or like succeed. And at that 5-year mark, we realized like, okay, like, you know, money is consistently flowing. You know, we reached a milestone that we wanted to reach. And, you know, there's been like a lot of potential business like opportunities that just like come to us organically at that point. So definitely, like, I feel like for a lot of entrepreneurs that are just kind of like waiting and plugging in and working hard, like they kind of like wait, like when is it gonna be, you know, like when are we gonna feel successful? And I feel like after just kind of, you know, time, you know, it takes a lot of time. And for us, it's 5 years. So that's our milestone.
That's awesome. And I think the one thing that I really appreciate about that is the humility, what you said about asking questions and being curious about what people are interested in, despite knowing that your product is already well liked and well received. Thank you so much, Val. Emilynn, for you, just a little background. Your photography studio is in downtown LA. I think you have another location. And I think in this particular industry, we find a lot of independent, you know, freelancers and contractors who actually don't have space. Oftentimes you're renting from other people. And then in your industry, given that you're service-based, you're also dealing with a lot of relationships. And some of the relationships you have allowed you to feature and partner with Fashion Nova, Saweetie, Jamie Foxx. Can you talk about how you've been, and also I do want to emphasize that you've done this at a pretty young age. So how have you developed and maintained those relationships to get you where you are today?
So I mean, I'm very, very blessed and thankful for, first my mom for believing in me that I can become a photographer. And she, you know, kind of just like let me be a photographer. So I've kind of been doing this since I was 16, and I've never had another job. And so I really took it seriously. And I love what I do. You know, I didn't grow up with much, but there was just something about photography that filled my soul, made me made me just like want to get up and kind of keep going. And so for me, it was just like, it kind of came natural, and I love people. I'm a people person. So I always felt like, you know, relationships are so important. You know, you never know where one person can take you, or even just like the gratification that like, I get clients that will fly out from like different states to come shoot with me. And even if they're, you know, not somebody famous, like I appreciate that you're flying out to shoot with me. And I want to make sure that you get the best photo shoot experience that you can while you're in LA, you know, and that's a gratification that I love as well. And yeah, and like the studio, I think that kind of just happened through me meeting the right business partner, and me growing with her. And I feel like I always tell people how important it is to have a team, because without a good team, you know, a business won't rise. And, you know, we've only been open for 2 years, and, you know, and it's been so amazing to, you know, have something that actually builds a community. As a photographer, I'm very alone with what I do. Like I'm shooting, I go on sets by myself. I might have I have an assistant, I have a lighting tech, but mainly like I'm with the client. I'm the one talking to the client, and then I come home and I edit by myself. But with the studio, like it's beautiful because, you know, I feel like they're my family. We come in and we have our meetings. We even like do like little Instagram stories together. And, you know, we have like, now we have like sweaters together. And like, you know, I think it's just something that I could build with a team. And, you know, we throw these events, we throw these female photography panels, we throw like community events, and we collaborate a lot with a lot of female entrepreneurs. And the studio really gives me that satisfaction of having a community. And it's not easy, but I'm, like I said, very, very, very happy to have both.
That's great.
I don't even know if that was within the question that you asked.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think there's, you know, things around collaboration, and also one theme that we often ignore or may not necessarily highlight in our community is our natural tendency to care for each other, and the way that we care for one another, whether it's your team or your clients. Like you said, you know, when people fly in to work with you, you want to make sure they have the best experience. And I think that this is another competitive advantage. You know, we are always thinking about how we can make the best experience for others. So thank you. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that's what differentiates our studio as well. Like I'm all about customer service. Like before this whole COVID, like some studios, like they'll just send you like an enter access code, like so that people don't even come say hi to you. You just come in, you like use the space. But I'm all about like making sure that somebody greets them, somebody comes in, and, you know, everything's taken care of. Or even prior to that, they have their set clean and make sure that everything's the way they want, or if they needed like specific supplies, like they have it in the studio, you know. So I'm all about, I think that's like a part of the Filipino in me, is like customer service and just making sure everyone's happy, you know. It's something that I just want, yeah, like I think that's a huge business like need, is to actually enjoy what you do and make people feel that like when they're spending money for your business, that they feel that, you know, that you're happy to have their business, you know.
Mm-hmm. It's a kind of picture like, you know, what our titas and moms have taught us, like when you enter a Filipino home, it's like, okay, there's all the food that you want, and
oh my god,
make yourself at home.
Now it's rubbed off on me, like when I was younger, like I never thought about it. I'm like, oh, like my mom cooks all the time, like offers everyone food. But now I do it. Like now I'm like, Mom, have you had food? Mom, do you want me to drop off food? Mom, like, and I even bring food for my staff. I'm like, have you guys eaten? I'm like, that's my mom. That's all my mom. Yeah, it's so hard because I can't even see her right now because she works in the hospital, and I feel like I've been around people, so I don't want to like I don't know. That's the hardest part too. It's like I've been checking up on her every day. Like, have they been keeping you safe? Like, I mean, she's in the forefront of all this, so
yeah.
You know, hopefully.
Thinking of her and all the medical professionals in our community. Okay, so thank you so much, Emilynn. Turning it over to Alyssa. And do you want to go by Leah or?
Yeah, Leah. I know it's confusing.
No, not at all. So Leah, in your field, you know, we actually had a session with a therapist earlier this week, and she also comes from the social service plus the clinical side. And in your field, oftentimes, you know, we have a lot of Filipinas in particular, who go into social services and kind of are indoctrinated with a mindset that you have to do this at your own detriment, and that it's not, you know, it's not okay to thrive because you're serving a lot of these communities who are marginalized. And I think what you've done really well is you've created a model that does put into that priority, you know, a mindset of thriving so that you can overflow. And it's just been great to see. But I'd love for you to share how you've been able to make that leap, create a business that has a space too, and then at the same time still maintain that frame of mind that equity is important in this social and mental wellness in this space that you're in.
So I think this is a really good question. This is something I'm very passionate about, which is part of the reason why I opened up my spaces. It's actually to help women of color who are therapists that want to start a private practice, because oftentimes when you go into this field, there's this glorification of poverty and there's a lot of shaming. You didn't go into this to make money. If you want to make money, you're in the wrong field. And there's all these messages where you are then internalized to sacrifice yourself, work all of these hours, do a lot of just kind of work that makes you so burnt out. And, you know, I found that the opposite, that doesn't have to be the case. You don't have to glorify living paycheck to paycheck because you know, grad school told you so. So the way this all started out for me was I was working in community mental health for a very long time. One of my I was employed by an agency where I was working with juvenile offenders at a probation placement. And I'm trained in a lot of things. One of the things that I'm trained in, it's called EMDR. So it's using eye movements to help you process any traumatic experiences that you've had in your past. And you don't have to talk. The way that your eyes are moving, you start to remember stuff kind of automatically. So it's a really, really beautiful thing that I've been able to do with people. So in the probation placement, I was like, hey, I'm trained in this thing. I want to do it with these boys who have been through so much trauma. But because it's a county operated place, the boys that I was doing it with, they were doing well. They were experiencing things, and they were talking more because they didn't have to open up so much, because with their eye movements, they were able to kind of like remember things. It's a complicated thing, but anyway, so people found out I was doing that with them, and they said, Medi-Cal doesn't cover that, you have to stop. And so at the same time I was working there, but I also had my private practice, maybe like 5 hours a week, and I was doing it in my private practice. And then to me, that was such a highlight of social stratification and inequality. Here are these people that need this thing, and I can't give it to them because Medi-Cal doesn't cover it. And then here are people with access and a lot of resources, and they're able to pay me privately, so then they're going to get it. And then this is what I see. This is like a system that continues to thrive and create inequality. And then here's a system where I have to do some kind of treatment that isn't as proven to work as the one I've been trained in, but it's because their insurance doesn't cover it. So it was kind of like in that moment that it was like, I have to start something else where I can be financially secured and sustainable. So this is where I went to start my own private practice, so that I can get to a place where I can serve people who are leaving the justice system. So really my heart is to be able to work with prisoners, people who have left, who've been exonerated or leaving death row, to be able to provide them the services that I'm providing privately at my private practice pro bono. Because if the reality of it is, if therapy is very expensive, going to see a therapist does cost a lot of money. So that was what inspired me to kind of be able to start my private practice and be able to kind of create this financial sustainability, all the while so I can also help people who can't afford therapy. I think in order to do that, you have to be really, really passionate about why you're a therapist. I think entrepreneurship 101, it can't be about the money. It can never be about the money. And that was what my first mentor told me. The moment it is about the money will dry up. So I think in order to create that sustainability, you have to go to your why. And the why always has to be bigger than you. And my why is to help marginalized people without access. Like that, it will always be my private practice is thriving. I'm going to start a group practice, but at the end of the day, it's so I can offer more pro bono work to the young boys that I used to work with. And so, and in order for, sustainable, I don't know if I'm like really answering the question, but like for sustainability, for me, it's, you have to connect with other activists, you have to connect with other therapists, you have to connect with other people, you have to connect with other entrepreneurs, like similar to Emilynn, I love people. And so I feel like I'm so thankful to be in a field and in a position where I'm literally just interacting and engaging and connecting with people all day long. It makes it easier for me. But I think first we have to get out of like the mindset of the glorification of poverty, right? And I think some of that also maybe comes from some sort of like cultural stuff too, right? Like helping people, don't ask for anything, you're doing it because you love them, things like that. And I think we also have to get out of that mindset. And just also be able to realize like, we're worth this, we also deserve to thrive. And thriving can look financial, and that's okay too.
Absolutely. So good. Yes. We're snapping and clapping, all of that. Thank you so much for that message. I'm sure someone in the audience really needed to hear that today. There's just so much goodness coming from this. So turning it over to Jess, this is another big question I think a lot of folks grapple with, which is, at what point do I take the leap, especially if I'm already thriving in the corporate world? And is it okay to make that leap? Is it okay to leave that ladder and establish something on my own? So Jess, you were a creative director. You had been in, as you mentioned, in the field, in the industry for 15 years, and then you decided to create your own agency. And you're now in 2 coasts. You've got LA and New York really working together to work with top-notch clients. So tell us what essentially left, or what led you to that moment of taking the leap, and what have been some key milestones for you?
Yeah, happy to share. First, I apologize when my screen went blank. I didn't realize that as people are texting me about this panel, every time I respond to them, I like go blank. So I'm so sorry. I'm going to ignore all those texts now. But
it was your beautiful face in a photo that came up.
Oh, great. Okay. But I'm going to avoid those texts now because I am fully listening to all of you guys. And I think it's great information. And shout out to Jen Taylor for always getting me in trouble. But anyways, so to answer your question, I would first say that if you are working a traditional career, working for someone else, and you're thinking about making that leap to entrepreneur, or just, starting up your own shop, whatever you want to call it, trust your instincts first, because there were so many red flags going off in my career, probably 3 or 4 years before I made the leap. And I should have made the leap sooner. And I was scared to make the leap. I had so many signs. I had my most trusted colleagues leaving the agency, or whether they went to other agencies or did their own thing or went in-house. I had clients, who only wanted to work with me and had problems with a lot of the bureaucracy of the system. And I was always trying to accommodate things. I also had a lot of decisions made for me that I would not have made myself. So things started to change when there were certain leadership changes at the agency. And, I don't know if you know much about people in marketing and PR, but to stay at an agency for 10 years is not really common. There's so much jumping around in our industry. And it was really past my time to go. And I'm just such a loyalist. I think a lot of us are. It's like, if it's not broken, don't leave, and don't let anybody down and all that kind of stuff. But even my own boss had left. She was so like disappointed in our system that she took a year off and traveled around the country and had a sabbatical. And I really should have, like my boss, and people stay somewhere when they have a great boss, right? So when she left, I really should have left right after her instead of basically taking on her job and, handling everything. So there were so many signs. So whatever those signs are for you, pay attention to them. And then I would say, if you're still scared to make the leap, test the waters first and do a side hustle for a bit. A lot of us do side hustles, and so many people recommend having multiple revenue streams. You can't just necessarily rely on one source of income. And those of you who are, living with someone or married know that, the best way to survive is a dual income, whether it's from you and somebody else, or if it's two incomes coming to you. So, don't be scared to try to like test the waters first and see how you can handle that lifestyle. I think the biggest misconception is that you're going to have like such a shift in your time. I will say now that I've been doing this for 5 years, yes, I love my freedom. I love that I can try to sometimes master a 4-hour work week. That's not always the case. But, I do have so much flexibility that I didn't have in the beginning, and you won't have in the beginning of first going out. If you're ready to really work around the clock, and all the entrepreneurs on this panel know this, the beginning is going to be tough. So as long as you've got that desire and passion and will and health and strength to do that, be ready for that hard work up front. And I would say, get some advice from people who are also paving the path ahead of you and trying something in the entrepreneur space, because my mentors and my peers who are doing this for a long time as well have been tremendous help. So that's what I would start off with.
That's awesome. I think testing, whether it's whether you're in your current 9-to-5 or you're testing a lot of different products, like that's such a great way to frame it, because we are, as women, I think especially, we're constantly feeling like it has to be perfect. If nobody is interested in this, I'm not going to try it out. But the framework of you have to test, product test, or ask questions, like what Val was saying. So I'm going to pivot us a little bit to a different conversation, which is at the point that you started your business. And this is a conversation or a topic that I really want to get our community to feel comfortable with, which is money. How were you able to get the funding or the startup capital that you needed to either test or launch your business? And please, anyone who wants to respond, feel free to share. It's a conversation.
I'll respond first. So when we started Spread the Love, it was a side hustle for like about 3 years. Actually, I was a social worker for the county, and I was responsible for family's health insurance. So couldn't leave that just right away. My husband and I had $5,000 that we put into Spread the Love, and that quickly, run out. So we went to the Jewish Free Loan Association and got $15,000 of interest-free loan. So that definitely helped us. And, like I said, we don't really have like a business background. Zach didn't go to business school, so we had no clue there were like venture capitals. Like I didn't know what VC was like until like last year. So we just kept on like kind of, looking for these like, interest-free loans. And by the time that we paid our first $15,000, we wanted to get another one, and we could have, but it was just so awkward, like asking our families and friends to co-sign, that we're like, you know what? Whatever, we're not going to do this. Let's just, again, like get money from our own savings and, risk it in our own business. And at the same time, we weren't really paying ourselves. We were getting paid by our own jobs. Zach had his own other business. And, like I said, I was pretty cushy with my social worker pay. So yeah, a lot of that. And then now, at this point, we don't really need funding. What we need more of is more of like a strategic partner. So yeah, I guess for us, we had this like very like frugal mentality, and just, kind of like I didn't spend money for marketing until like probably 2.5 years ago. So everything that I did was like very creatively, like it was like free, you know, everything, like peanut butter became a valuable exchange for us. We paid people in peanut butter, basically. So, yeah.
I'll go next. You said, so how was the business funded? Yeah, so I didn't grow up with money. So my mom was kind of those parents that was like, you go to college, stay home, or you move out of the house. So I saved up like a couple $1,000s, and then I moved out when I was 19. And I was just like, okay, I'm gonna figure this out. I figured out photography, and then what I kind of did was like, I didn't want to get another job. So the way I thought about it was that I wanted to be a fashion photographer, but what pays right now? Headshots, modeling portfolios, like baby shoots, maternity shoots, because it was happening. So I used that as like my second job, and then I created projects and showcase more of my fashion work. So I was still doing photography, but directed, you know, like my main goal was to become a fashion photographer. And then, you know, time went by and I saved up money, and I was just like, you know, I want to start another business. Like, what happens if I get sick and I can't work, I can't go on shoots, like, so then how am I going to make money? And so this, one of my clients came to me and was like, hey, we have this location. Didn't you want to start a studio? And I was like, oh, okay, like I'll hop on that. Like, I became partners with them. It didn't really work out. And then my assistant at the time was my business partner now. And I was just like, hey, we've been already working on this project. Like, I hate the business partners I have now. It's either I leave, take the name of the studio, and then start all over. And my business partner was just like, I just don't know if I'm going to be around for 5 years waiting for you to start this business again. And I was just like, okay. So I had to ask a friend for money. At the time, actually, it was my ex. And I was just like, hey, I want to buy out the business partners I have now. Like, can I borrow money? No interest. And he lent me the money. Thankfully, it was $10,000. So I bought them out. It wasn't that bad compared to other businesses. But then me and my business partner, like, we just went all in on it. Like, we started like focusing on it, just work. I mean, I'm still a full-time photographer. So on top of me being a full-time photographer, I'm working late at nights or early mornings on the studio to kind of like expand it. And then within 6 months, we opened up our, the next studio. And then after that, we opened up another after 6 months. So it's been like, all of it has been funded through me. And one thing, like after paying off our loan from my ex, which is my still a great friend now, I was just like, you know, as much as I can, like if I can fund it myself and not ask people for money, like I will. So we opened up the past 2 studios on just my savings. Like I put in $40,000 to $50,000 of my own money. But I'm very, very like saving mentality. Like, I mean, even through this crisis, like I was just like, thank God I had a savings, because, you know, at the end of it, like, even though I see money come in and I'm like, oh, I could buy a purse, or I can buy this, or, you know, all these material things, like I think about like, how can I expand and create jobs for people, you know, and especially people in my industry, people I've known. Like I want to be able to provide jobs for my friends, for people that like I work with all the time. Like, how can I, you know, keep growing this instead of thinking about the now? Because I'm 25 years old. So if I want to spend all this money, I have time to spend that when I'm 30. Like right now, I just want to keep building a business that creates jobs. So we are thinking, I mean, right now we did apply for grants and loans just in case of anything, and just in case this does go longer than 2 to 3 months, you know, just in case. But hopefully I don't have to take out loan, because I've never owed money. So hopefully that's not the case. But I still don't think it's a bad idea for people to ask for money if they don't have it, you know, especially like when they're limited on jobs. Just be very mindful that, you know, you're able to pay it back. Because for me, like that's so important, to pay people back, because it's their own money. And if they believe in you and giving you a chance to lend you money, like you gotta pay it back, you know? Yeah.
Right. And by the way, there are some resources for those of you who are interested in emergency funding right now. The SBA, which is a federal agency, is offering a disaster loan. It's available to all states that that are experiencing the coronavirus, which is pretty much all the states. And then there's also a crowdfunding platform called Kiva that offers, it's a crowdfunding loan, but it's 0% interest rate. And there are
actually,
some.
we just signed up for SBA yesterday.
And I'm happy to share those resources. That's actually the world that I live in, and that's my specialty. So please, anyone who has any questions on that specifically.
What was the second one? Kiva, K-E-E-V.
K-I-V-A. And also, if you don't live in LA, the best resource to look at right now is going to be your city. So your city is going to offer a lot of potentially emergency grants or loans, and you can look up your business or your economic development department for those resources. So thank you. I didn't mean to interrupt the flow.
No, that was perfect. Because I think people right now need to know like what they can do to try to get that money. Like right now, like I think for us, like we're trying to start with grants, but we just applied for the loan just in case, you know, if we do get approved, if we use it, we use it. If we don't, you know, we'll return it. But I think just having a backup plan right now, and think ahead, you know, like instead of thinking when like the crisis and your like bank account is zero, like it's really good to like think about what it will be like just in case like the worst situation happened. Even though we don't want to think about that, even though we're trying to be positive, the reality is like people got jobs, people have bills to pay. And I think it's just good to stay ahead of, you know, the worst situation that can happen. And for me, like I said, like my main concern is my employees. Like I do not want to not pay them. I do not want them to be, you know, I got a message the other day saying like, instead of you just completely like not paying me, like I'll take a pay cut, you know, like it's not even about the pay cut. It's about, you know, this is your livelihood. Like, I know that you need this.
Yeah, this is the reality. And I mean, that's true too. Even if if we were in a normal time, for a business to think ahead also shows like your investors or your potential lenders that you're, you know, when your business is super healthy, that's actually the best time to be looking at funding also. So thinking ahead is applicable to everyone. Leah and Jess, did you want to chime in on your startup capital story?
I can go. I can go. So when you're a therapist, you actually don't need a lot of capital to start your own private practice, but I will share what I did. My story is very similar to Emilynn's. I didn't grow up with a lot of privilege, so everything that I have, I have through my own savings. When I first started doing therapy, I had a full-time job at an outpatient mental health agency. Then I had a part-time job at an outpatient mental health agency. And then I had like a small private practice of like 5 clients. My first agency allowed me to use their offices for private practice. So I didn't have to pay any overhead. So while I had these 3 jobs, I was really kind of just like saving and saving and saving and saving. So the only thing that I really needed was to be able to sign a lease on the different offices that I have. But I was able to do that through all of the savings that I did with the multiple jobs that I had as a therapist right after grad school. I am really thankful because as soon as I finished graduate school, I got a financial advisor that taught me all about a 401k, a Roth IRA, mutual funds. So I've had all that money set up since I was like 21 years old, 22 years old. So just knowing that money was there if I needed to pull anything from my business was very reassuring for me, but I didn't need to. He was actually also the person who referred me to my CPA, and my CPA is a CPA and a dual attorney, and she's also Filipina, which is why I like going to her. And she's also helped me because I never thought I was going to be an entrepreneur. I totally thought I was going to work in community mental health for the rest of my life, and that's it. So everything that I'm doing now, I'm learning for the first time. I'm learning it through consultations with peers, people like you. My dad did own a business when we were little. So like I'll like talk to him once in a while, but for the most part, like everything that I'm doing, I'm learning through other people. So thankfully my CPA, she kind of helps me look at, okay, what's coming in and what are your expenses and how can we maximize your income flow? So just in terms of like money management in my business, I'm really thankful to have somebody that has both like the accounting understanding and the law understanding. When it comes to capital too, I just read this book by Dave Ramsey. So I'm like a total Dave Ramsey fan. I don't know if you guys have heard of him, but he's all about money management, total money makeover, and kind of like redefining your relationship with money and cutting out any expenses that you don't need. So I've really just been practicing that and just kind of like knowing where every penny goes, whether it's in my personal life or in my business. And because I'm able to just save just cash on end, then it helps me to kind of like grow my business in other aspects. So that's my story. I just worked a bunch in the beginning, doing a bunch of side stuff, saved all of that money, and then used that cash to help start my private practice. But truthfully, in private practice, you don't need as much capital as probably other businesses do, because all you need is an office space and yourself. So that's mine.
Yeah, I think I would add to that. So for service consultants like myself, whether you're offering, graphic design services or you're offering marketing, PR services, content creation, whatever it is, I mean, you really just need an office. That's true. And for me, it was about the relationships. So I had so many great client relationships that I was able to keep because I originally, when you leave a big agency, there's usually a non-compete clause in your contract. You can't steal any current clients away, and you can't, continue to work with anyone that is currently signed with that agency, right? And there's like a crazy grace period. It's like 2 years, right? You have to wait, right, till you could even like connect with them on a professional level like that. So luckily for me, I was representing Nestle USA at the time. And all of the Nestle employees were in this state of flux because Nestle was going to leave California, if you guys remember this, and move their entire operations to the East Coast and to Ohio, and like really spread out around the Northeast. And so a lot of my clients that I had that were on different brands left Nestle and joined all these corporations, because these are amazing, badass marketing directors. They had like all these great jobs in LA with other major corporations. And because they remembered me and they worked with me, we had such good relationships that lasted years. They basically took me with them. And so they were like, okay, Jess, we're no longer with Nestle. We're now with this brand. Come with us. And so that was it for me. I didn't have to market anything. I didn't have to tell anyone even that I was, 10 Story House, which is the name of my company. I just let them know you still had me, right? And I let them know that I could come on board, and it was very seamless. And I was lucky in that sense. And I made the mistake of paying for overhead up front because I thought, I'm starting my own shop, my own agency. I need to have an office, right? And I wasted a lot of money in paying rent and like WeWork spaces. And I don't need that because, look at your type of service that you offer. Do you really need to waste it on overhead like that? You don't. And for me, it was just about, because it's public relations, it was about public image, right? But I think in this day and age, it's so common, especially now, everyone has to work remotely from home. And so, once I cut that overhead cost, it was wonderful. And I could continue to do the work I did and provide the service that I've been providing for years, because it's all about the ideas and it's all about the relationships. And so I would get to go to clients and work with them at their offices, and we just have had different solutions. So in terms of the upstart capital, though, what really helped me was having things from friends and colleagues in the business. So insurance, for example, I, didn't have the time right off the gate to get like an umbrella insurance policy for some major events that I was helping produce. So I had friends who were running their own agencies, whether they were PR agencies or event marketing agencies. And they were like, you know what? We're going to sign you on. Let's make a contract that you're a sister agency of ours and you're automatically under our insurance. And so that was huge for me. Those friends that just did that for me, and also, would tell me like their resources were available to me. So it's all about those relationships, made all the difference for me in every sense of starting up my business.
I love that. Like, there's so much around relationships and collaboration, and what you've all been speaking to. I wanted to share Entrepinayship being a social enterprise. I've been grappling with, whether it needs to be the nonprofit or for-profit and whatnot, and looking at my funding sources. But just to share my startup capital, I do have a 9-to-5 within entrepreneurship development, but my 9-to-5 has been my source of investment for entrepreneurship. But I also took out a 0% business credit card last year to fund some of the events that we did. And there's been some revenues coming in from just small things, like very, like few events here and there. And my big thing is really looking at those relationships, collaborations with other brands and other organizations that see the value in what we're bringing to the forefront. So Leah, earlier you mentioned, starting a business based on your why. And I wanted to just open the conversation up to everyone. Like, what was your motivation? Like, what was your reason for starting your business, and what's keeping you motivated now? And then also, like, if anyone wants to talk about this, like, community is important more than ever. I mean, we've talked about relationships, we've talked about collaborations, especially in times of crisis. But what's been key for you in terms of community? Who have you drawn upon? Like, why is it important to have community?
Wait, what you wanted us to answer the why question first? And
I think either one of those. I just want to have like just an open conversation now.
Do you mind repeating it? Do you mind just repeating it again?
Yeah. So what was your motivation? What was the reason why you initially went into this business? What's your motivation now? What's been keeping you motivated throughout this? And also, what's the role of community for you?
For me, the goal, like for me, what's keeping me motivated is definitely the community, and just kind of finding more and more. Every event we throw, I find out more about other female entrepreneur brands. And for me right now, it's like, I know our industry has both men and women, and we're not sexist against men at all, but I think for me it's just being able to finally push like a femininity to the industry, like having a feminine aesthetic without people being like, oh, that's too girly, instead of just being like, oh, that's beautiful, like that's an aesthetic. So for me, just really empowering women. Even my management company right now is all women. And they did the Be Rare Foundation, which is helping out women. So I love I love being, I just love, that's where we met again. And for me, I just really love being around this boss babe mentality of females just, succeeding for their own selves, and, not letting anything stop them. I think, it's so beautiful every time I can collaborate with new female brands that, we just want to put out there. And, even something like this, I love seeing all women on the panel, it's just beautiful. And I think for, this is something new, this is our generation that's finally opening up to this is not a men's world anymore,
Hear, hear.
Yeah.
For me, our whole motivation was really, truly a labor of love from the beginning. What my husband and I, when we were thinking about what to give to our friends and family who came from all over the world to our wedding, and, get out of their comfort zone, we just really wanted to show so much gratitude and love to them that we made something that, we already make in our home kitchen.
Aww.
And so for me, truly, love is our motivation. And if it's bigger than just peanut butter, so if we can make people turn to, really good food and just pure, without the additives, without the extras, I think we can make the world a better place.
Yes. Agreed, 100%. Okay, come on, guys.
Okay, I'll jump in. For me, community, well, it gave me sanity. So let me explain. When you're an entrepreneur, you're doing everything by yourself most of the time, right? You girls know. And so what I think was the hardest part for me in that transition from agency life to my own shop was I didn't have, the conference room with 10 people in there to bounce ideas off. And I didn't have like the, admin staff in the, God, I miss my admin staff, and I miss like my financial staff. I miss my, assistant, those kind of things were hard. And so what helped me get through that was my alumni network really helped. I was able to, through them, go and find a college student that wanted to learn and have, an assistant role, and, somebody that wouldn't break the bank for me, but was also talented because they were, from the Annenberg School. So I was really helpful. That was super helpful having that resource. And then I also got so involved in SEPA, which really made a difference because I was now on this board of directors. I joined the board a year after I started my business, and I was now back in that space with like-minded individuals and able to think together and solve problems, not necessarily, for any kind of, compensation, but just that feeling of working with a team to get things done. That was really fulfilling for me. And so I highly recommend for entrepreneurs. I know you're already so swamped and busy and can't even think about, especially if you're a parent like myself, having that extra time, but it is an investment in your soul. I think it's the kind of thing that really actually helped my business stay on top of a lot of trends and developments. And I started to work more in the community and think about ways that I could accommodate the community through my business. So that was a huge help for me. And I'm, now on the board of directors for almost 3 years, and it was the greatest thing I did.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think plugging into like-minded people is key. And for me, obviously, entrepreneurship, I've gotten to know so many wonderful women and allies. I think it's also important to recognize who's there for the same purpose. And there are times when, as we build community, I think we're just going to attract, more and more of the same people, which is awesome. And that's what I'm getting to experience. And honestly, I was sharing the other day with one of our other panelists, I left that panel feeling so motivated, and I forgot what we were dealing with. And then later on that night, I was kind of struck by the reality. But this has been giving me so much life, just the last 4 days. So thank you. Leah, what about you?
Mine, similar to Val, my why is love. I really love human beings. Part of what I specialize is and I'm sure you know this, it's inner child healing. Mm-hmm. So what that is everything that we've been through in our lives from childhood until now have a significant impact on our subconscious mind and how we experience this world. And so what I love is being able to help people connect to those parts of themselves, those younger parts of themselves, to understand why they do the things that they do, and to help them understand their feelings on a deeper level. I think of therapy as like holding up a mirror to your subconscious mind. And so for me, my motivation is to be able to help people kind of like have a life worth living, and to kind of like unlock just like a deeper and more meaningful experience in their lives. So it's my relationships with my clients that keep me going. It's watching their progress that keep me going. And it's being able to connect with so many different human beings from so many different walks of life that are that keep me going. It's my love for humanity, all humanity, and just being able to help others. It's so simple to me. It's just being able to help others. That's my why.
I actually wanted to say, I think it's so beautiful how much you're helping a lot of people, a lot of kids from juvenile or prisons. That's just, you have no idea how many people just need that kind of help, especially in low income families. I mean, like I said, you know, we both didn't come from a lot. So I think like knowing that and bringing that back is amazing. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And then, and if you grow up in a certain, like, let's say lower income bracket, then you've been, for a lot of people, you kind of like internalize these like limiting beliefs that prevent you from like pursuing things that people with privilege would pursue. And so for me, it's work. I just love working with other communities to help them realize that they deserve everything else that other communities have too.
Yeah.
And so it's helping them to challenge and just kind of like eliminate those limiting beliefs, because those are all social constructs. None of it is true.
Yeah. I truly believe that.
Yeah. None of it is true.
Okay, so we have so much to still talk about, but I do want to give folks a chance to chime in and answer or ask their questions, or maybe just, you know, share a comment. You know, what are you thinking right now? Like, what is this conversation sparking for you? And then for our panelists, all your information is on our Entrepinay Day website, but if you're interested in sharing that in the chat box, please feel free to do so. So for everyone listening in, you now have the ability to unmute yourself if you want to share a question or a comment. I just want to give everyone a chance to join in the conversation. And in the meantime, maybe we can just go around the room and share, what is the one thing we could do right now to support you?
For the panelists or for
for the panelists. Oh, you didn't expect that question.
I think, you know, for me, I feel like everyone just trying to stay positive, and I can't really say what, you know, I can ask people to help with my business. Maybe just promote. You guys can help promote it when you know, just share the page, share the love, you know. Oh, the baby. Oh, and sorry if I keep moving around. My cat wants to play.
Our sixth panelist.
He's so cute.
What can we do to support you?
I would say just let people know that there are service providers that are Filipino American that are willing to help, and it's not necessarily to, you know, sign on a new client, but that, you know, they should get to know us and see how we can possibly enhance their need or their business. So I think people aren't even aware. And so I know like there's an attempt like online, Joe Bernardo, a friend and colleague who has started like a help support Filipino businesses. And it's really for those that are impacted by all the self-quarantines, like restaurants and whatnot. But it would be great if, you know, and I think, you know, Jennifer Taylor's trying to start a site called Felt Me, which is spelled PHELPME. And it's just listing all the Filipino-owned businesses and entrepreneurs and people you should know that have great reputations and offerings for the community. So it's just driving that awareness. Like, let's say you're thinking about, you know, you get in touch with your friends later, tell them that you heard this panel and there was this amazing photographer and there was this gal who has this Spread the Love Foods, you know, just talk about us. And I think that might spark a connection for somebody who has that need to work with us or support us.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
I agree with Jessica. Just sharing and spreading the word on our businesses definitely help. Going to spreadthelovefoods.com and buying directly to our website. And yeah, I know it's kind of hard for us to like ask for help right now because we kind of know like there's other people that need more help than us. But I think that's something that I'm working on with myself. Like, it's okay to ask, you know, it's okay to ask our friends.
Yeah. Okay, we got some questions. Based on what's happening in the world, would you consider or would you recommend new entrepreneurs to start a business now? And okay, we'll start.
Yes, definitely. This is an amazing time. I mean, no one is going to question that you're trying to have a side hustle, like where there might have been a stigma before, and you know, every boss, you know, that's working with you knows you're at home and you're worried and you're thinking of your family. And so if you have a hobby, like, you know, this is going to sound really silly, but I've always wanted to like have an Etsy shop, you know, or I've always wanted to like have like an eBay shop and like and I never would do those kind of things. I didn't have the time, but I was like, yeah, you know, I have all these like vintage clothes and that would be so fun, you know, and this is the time. Do it. Nobody's going to question it. And you're not going to go crazy worrying about what's happening in the world. You're going to put your mind on something positive and something productive. So yes, absolutely. Like this is a gift that we've been given. Like think about the fact that there's not going to be hopefully another time where we're all self-quarantined, right? So do it 100%. And if you're scared, call me and I'll give you a pep talk.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a good time to start planning a business. You know, you got time now to kind of just, you know, strategize. So
Emilynn, I love that you're such a planner.
oh my God, look at this. I'm such a planner. I love it. I literally have like lists on lists. If you guys don't, like, one thing I tell people, make a list. Like a daily list, a weekly list, and then like a monthly goal, and then a yearly goal. And then boom, next thing you know, like you're starting like all these businesses and it's actually working because you're working on it on the daily, you know?
P.S. One of the planner, what have you heard of Passion Planner? That was started,
no.
Yeah, that was started by a Filipina in San Diego, and she started on a Kickstarter. I think you might like her product.
Oh, okay.
It's called Passion Planner.
Yeah.
So she's Pinay, and she's amazing. So I used to work at SIPA as the small business coach, and when I first learned about her, she started her crowdfunding campaign the first year, and I think she maybe generated 60,000. By her third year, it was like 1.5 million on her.
That's so good. I know. I'm trying to find a way to like make a product I can like mass sell. I'm like, how do I figure that out?
And also, I think now is a good time for collaborators to reach out to someone like you, Emilynn, like to take photos of products and to create, you know, fun campaigns, things like that, right?
Yeah, that's like the one thing I'm trying to figure out, just because like I actually like hate shooting products. So like right now, like I'm honestly like not even worried about myself. I'm more just worried about the studio. So I'm just using like this time to like catch up on edits. Just kind of like keep my clients like, if you know, like knowing that like we'll shoot again once the quarantine's over, because I have such consistency with my photography. It's more of the studio that it's just like it's such a new baby, you know, that it's like we're still making sure that we don't like lose clients, and we like when as soon as like this since until everything comes back, that like, you know, we have some kind of bookings, you know, instead of it taking a while for people to book again. Yeah.
Oh, we have a question. Emilynn, do you do personal branding shoots?
Yeah, I do. Anything with branding, I do. So, holla. Yeah.
Any other questions from the audience, or anything else that you wanted to share, ladies?
Who asked that? Well,
that was Carissa.
Oh, Carissa. Oh, it was in the Q&A. Oh. Hi, Carissa.
Okay. There's another question too. For new entrepreneurs who were not business owners during the GFC, what's the GFC? How would you guide them to be gritty during this period of challenge?
What is GFC?
I don't know. What's GFC? Is it Great Fucking Corona? I don't know. No, it's Grand Financial Crisis.
Oh,
what is it?
Grand Financial Crisis.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. My bad.
I like Jess's better.
I know.
Yeah, so what do you guys think? How would you, it's Jen Taylor's question. She calls it the grand, she's a Christ, people, you don't know GFC. She's so crazy in her financial terms and all her acronyms. But yes, how would you counsel people to do this and have that grit? What do you guys think?
Like, is it asking like if they have a job, but they're just like sitting at like if they're just like
Yeah, she says for
this-
new entrepreneurs who were not business owners during the grand financial crisis, how would we guide them to be gritty during this period of challenge?
So the grand financial crisis being the 2008 crisis is what you're
Correct.
talking about. Okay, so that was the last crisis. If you don't have an experience if you did not experience that period.
Yeah.
Yes.
I definitely wasn't, you know, I was 11 probably, or maybe younger. So this is all new to me. Like, this is all, I'm just figuring it out. But I think it's just taking it day by day. And, you know, I'm not going to lie, I panicked. I definitely had a panic the last two, like on Thursday and Friday, I panicked. I was like completely crying. Like, I was just like, what's going to happen, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, you got to pull yourself together. Know that you got a business to run, and you just gotta like figure it out, because there are ways. It's not impossible. Like I personally don't believe this is going to fuck me. Like, I'm gonna fuck this coronavirus. There's no way I'm losing a business off this. You gotta have that mentality, I feel like.
And
I
everybody
just
do
wanted
it.
to share Emilynn's portfolio.
Oh yeah.
Thank you.
These are,
Gorgeous.
yeah, but you can keep talking. I'm just going to keep sharing different screens as you're talking, just so you can see.
Oh, thank you.
This is
Oh yeah, because I
Miguel's
was like, oh, what popped up? Yeah.
This
But
all
I mean,
gorgeous.
I definitely think it's helping right now that we're all doing this as a community, and that we get to talk to each other, because I couldn't even imagine like going through this crisis and like, you know, not being able to talk to my peers and kind of vent and, you know, just kind of ask for help and find answers to like some of the, you know, problems that I'm going through, you know, and just know that you're not alone.
Emilynn.
Oh,
Gorgeous.
okay. Thanks for sharing my page, guys.
And then can you see this?
Oh, love.
Wow.
I know. Try it.
Looks so good.
Delicious.
That's so cool you're in Salt and Straw, because I love that place.
P.S. She's also a top 100 finalist for FedEx's contest.
Is that
yes.
still going on?
Awesome.
Yeah, so today we actually, after this, Zach and I have to make our final video. So, you know, talking about like our passions and, you know, how it applies to our business. So thank you guys for having this panel, because this is actually inspiring me to, you know, like make that video. I'm like, great.
And you just did this St. Joseph's collaboration. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, we do have a Spread the Love Forward initiative where we help out organizations in the community that already do great work. So whatever we can help them with, whether it's the first thing we did ever was a fundraiser 2 years ago for people assisting the homeless. And this year we did, we were photo booth sponsors for Taste of St. Joseph Center. Where, you know, we just, we had little pins, Spread the Love pins that we gave out to people who wanted to take photos. And yeah, we basically like got the photo booth for them. So that raised $60,000, and it's going directly to their culinary training program.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And then here's Alyssa's page.
Can you go to the media part? This is what sorry guys, shameless plug. This is what I actually have been doing on the side. I'm a writer for different online magazines like Mind, Body, Green.
Ooh.
Pop Sugar.
That's amazing.
I'm a guest on a bunch of mental health podcasts.
Leah, I gotta talk to you later. Like, I feel like we have so much in common. I mean, I have so much in common with everybody, but you know, I just feel like you're speaking my language.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
I was on Allison Stoner's podcast recently. Most of the podcasts I do are inner child work. So I tell people, if you can't afford therapy, we offer so much free information online. We write articles, we go on podcasts. So if you can't afford therapy, there are so many other ways to heal, and it doesn't have to be therapy.
That's amazing.
This is great. Okay, we have some questions, I think. Oh, comments. I wanted to share a couple of other things. Sorry, I didn't mean for it to become like, what's next on my screen?
All good. We're all
Professional. Like, I didn't even know you can do all this. Like, Zoom. Like, this is awesome.
I want to go, is it okay to go back to the question about the grittiness of?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to answer this well, because I was also really little with the great financial crisis, but I really recommend anybody who's starting out a business, make sure you have a savings account. Make sure that you have 3 months worth of savings that cover all of your bills and groceries, and that includes the bills from your corporation. You really kind of just want to have that like cushion, so that when things like this do happen, you're not like necessarily scrambling. Because I think that's something that we kind of just forget as we start. We forget to have a savings account for our businesses too. It's good to have a personal savings, but once you start a business, your business has to have its own separate savings account as well. And then this is the time, like Emilynn said, to strategize, plan, and identify what are some ways to make passive income. I think for a lot of people, when you are your service and you have to take yourself away, it's like, how am I going to make money when I'm the service? So this is also a time to probably think about, like, what are some ways I can make money where I don't have to necessarily be there to perform anything, right? So that's the advice I have. Save money, strategize, think about passive income. Because I was thinking about that too, right? Like, if I'm not seeing clients, I'm not making money. I can't pay my bills. And that's where I came up with renting out office spaces. Thankfully, I can see clients virtually. But I think for Entrepinays just starting out, really, really consider what are some ways I can make income passively in case an emergency does happen. Because the thing is, emergencies do happen. Whether it's this, an earthquake, there are things that are going to happen.
Okay, so a summary of some of the things that have come through. Have the attitude to, Emilynn, how did you say it? To
fucking
great fucking. Number 1, mindset. Go ahead.
Insanity. Sorry, guys.
No, we love it. So that's number 1. Number 2 is plan. It sounds like plan and save.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3 is you have what it takes.
Mm-hmm.
You have the resilience. You have the knowledge. You can tap into your own wisdom to innovate and pivot as needed. What else?
Make sure that you are plugged into your community. If it's possible, find a partner, because I know how overwhelming it is to do this on your own. And being an entrepreneur, it's already so tough. There's so many highs and lows that if you have a partner that you can turn to, you can at least enjoy being an entrepreneur, right?
Oh, and yeah, my business partner slapped me silly, like get yourself together. And I was just kind of, okay, I got this.
Yeah.
I think partnership, teamwork, people. Yeah,
people, community.
Yeah.
Your purpose, knowing your why.
Your purpose, yes.
Making that top of mind. Tapping into your network. What else? Oh, this is so good. I'm so glad it's recorded. And shout out to Jen for giving us our new title, How to Beat the Great Fucking Coronavirus.
The GFC, how to beat it.
This is amazing. Okay, well, I do want to, again, honor everyone's time. We've already gone over 20 minutes, but would you all consider doing this again if we wanted to,
Oh, definitely. I mean, I am available. Really, I got it.
Yeah, same.
I mean, definitely, I'm sure we're all working, but I mean, like, I'm literally like, farthest I'll probably go is my kitchen, my living room. luckily my studio is down the street, so I'm just like, you know, not really meeting people. But I do want to do a little story, so say hi, everyone. Hi, that was so great. And just in case, you know, you guys want to tune in, we will be putting this on YouTube at Entrepinayship.
Wait, can we do one group photo where we do the Asian poses, like the?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Should I do the Asian squat? Should I just get up and
Someone
squat?
needs to take a photo of it though.
Oh, who's gonna, I'll take it.
No, you be on it.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Can you take it and be on it?
Yes.
Who's taking it? Nobody's taking
Is
it.
it a screenshot?
I'm taking it.
How do you do that? Oh, just
Who's taking it?
I screenshot it.
Yay!
Oh, Carissa
Thank you
took
so
it.
much,
Yay.
everyone. This has been another soul-filling session. I really appreciate you all. I appreciate you for showing up for us, for you, and for our community, and for helping us beat the GFC.
Yes. And thank you so much for having me on, having us on, Anna. And I really hope we can do something together at this.
Yes, absolutely. Once we're free to go, oh, hi, baby.
Yeah, she's been knocking on the door like crazy.
Oh, hi.
Hi. Okay, wait, Emilynn, you got to get your cat. It's share your kid day.
Look at that big girl. Hey.
All right, everyone, we're going to jump on the next workshop. If you'd like to join, go to the Entrepinay Day link. I'm sorry, I heard that some links were not working, so I apologize if there was any confusion. But thank you so much again for doing this, for being here, and I cannot wait to do more of these with all of you and to continue to share community with you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, everyone.
So nice to meet you guys.
You too. Talk
See
soon.
you again. Bye. Bye.